What if I told you that the greatest power in the world is not found in wealth, status, or knowledge, but in the ability to love, to forgive, and to show mercy? What if the true strength of the human heart lies not in how fiercely it can fight, but in how deeply it can heal across faiths, across cultures, and across centuries? The most transformative teachings ever revealed to humankind share a single message: love without condition, mercy without limit, and forgiveness without pride. There is a divine rhythm that flows through every human heart, the rhythm of love, mercy, and forgiveness. These are not just words, they are the essence of our creation, the fingerprints of the divine upon the soul. When you strip away the divisions of language, creed, and culture, you find that both Islam and Christianity speak of the same truth, that love is the greatest commandment, mercy is the path to divine closeness, and forgiveness is the key to peace. Both traditions teach us that God is not a distant ruler, but a compassionate sustainer, whose mercy extends beyond comprehension, whose forgiveness renews the broken, and whose love never fails. Love is not a human invention, it is a reflection of the Creator's nature. When a mother cradles her child, when a stranger helps another without reward, when an enemy chooses to forgive, these are all echoes of divine love manifesting through the human heart. Love is the language of the soul, and mercy is its dialect. Through love, faith becomes alive. Through mercy, it becomes compassionate. Through forgiveness, it becomes complete. Both religions call upon us to love not only those who love us, but even those who wrong us. The Qur'an tells us that Allah is Rahman, Rahim, the most compassionate, the most merciful, and commands believers to reflect that mercy in their dealings. Similarly, the Bible teaches that God is love, urging believers to forgive as they have been forgiven. These are not coincidences, but divine harmonies that resonate through revelation. Love, mercy, and forgiveness are not signs of weakness. They are the highest forms of strength. They require the courage to rise above ego, the humility to admit our own need for grace, and the wisdom to see others as reflections of the same divine breath that animates us all. When we learn to forgive, we are not excusing the wrong, we are freeing our souls from its grip. When we show mercy, we are not being soft, we are being strong enough to choose peace over pride. When we love sincerely, we are not being naive, we are aligning ourselves with the essence of the Creator. Humanity's greatest wounds come from the absence of these virtues. We see families divided, nations at war, hearts burdened by grudges, all because we have forgotten how to love, how to show mercy, and how to forgive. The teachings of both Islam and Christianity were never meant to remain in sacred books alone, they were meant to be lived. Love is not meant to be quoted, it is meant to be embodied. Mercy is not meant to be preached, it is meant to be practiced. Forgiveness is not meant to be admired from afar, it is meant to be experienced in the depths of one's heart. When a person forgives, they become a vessel of light. When a community forgives, it becomes a garden where peace can grow. Both faiths teach us that the soul finds its highest honor not in revenge, but in mercy, not in pride, but in humility, not in hatred, but in love. It is through these divine qualities that a believer becomes truly human, not defined by flaws, but refined by grace. And so the message for 2025 and beyond is this: the world does not need more noise, more debate, or more division. It needs more hearts that reflect divine love, more souls that practice mercy, more hands that forgive instead of retaliate. Every time you forgive, you become an ambassador of peace. Every time you choose mercy over anger, you bring heaven closer to earth. Every time you love purely for the sake of God, you heal a wound in the world that hatred could never mend. Both faiths remind us that divine mercy is greater than our sins, divine love is deeper than our pain, and divine forgiveness is more powerful than our mistakes. We were not created to despair, we were created to reflect the mercy of the one who made us. So love without condition, forgive without expectation, show mercy without hesitation, because when you do, you are not just following a teaching, you are embodying the essence of what it means to be truly human, truly spiritual, and truly connected to the divine. Love, mercy, and forgiveness are the three most profound forces that define the essence of humanity and reflect the divine spirit within each soul. When we look deeply into the teachings of both Islam and Christianity, we find that they converge beautifully at this sacred intersection, reminding us that faith is not merely a declaration of belief, but an expression of how we treat one another. Love is not an abstract emotion confined to poetry or sermons. It is a living force that must guide every action, every word, and every thought. It is the bond that connects creation to its creator, and through it, the heart learns compassion, patience, and humility. Both faiths teach that to love is to rise beyond the boundaries of self, ego, and prejudice, to see in others the same divine spark that resides within ourselves. When you look at another human being with love, you are acknowledging the handiwork of the divine, and that acknowledgement itself becomes an act of worship. Love, then, is not limited to affection for those who are good to us. It extends even to those who hurt us. For it is through loving the undeserving that we reflect the infinite mercy of God. The heart that learns to love purely, without agenda or pride, becomes the most peaceful heart, for it no longer depends on the actions of others to sustain its serenity. Love softens the hard-hearted, transforms enemies into companions, and awakens a compassion that can heal generations of division. In every sacred text, love stands as the first command, the axis upon which all other virtues turn, for love is the seed from which mercy blooms and forgiveness grows. Mercy is the second pillar that holds the structure of faith together. It is through mercy that love finds its expression in action, for love without mercy is incomplete. Mercy teaches us to respond to harm with kindness, to meet cruelty with gentleness, and to choose understanding over anger. In both religions, mercy is not merely a moral choice, but a divine command, for God himself identifies as the most merciful, the most compassionate. To be merciful is to mirror the Creator's nature in creation, to bring the softness of the heavens into the harshness of the world. Mercy is not weakness. It is strength in its purest form. It is easy to retaliate when wronged, but it takes strength to forgive. It is easy to speak harshly, but it takes strength to stay silent and choose peace. Every act of mercy is an act of courage, for it resists the human instinct for vengeance and elevates the soul above its base desires. When a person forgives, they are not declaring that injustice is acceptable. They are declaring that bitterness no longer has power over them. Mercy frees both the giver and the receiver. The one who shows mercy becomes a source of light, and the one who receives it finds hope where despair once lived. The Qur'an reminds believers that my mercy encompasses all things, and the Bible declares that blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. These teachings reveal a spiritual law. Those who show mercy invite mercy upon themselves, and those who withhold it imprison their own hearts. A merciful person is not blind to wrongdoing, but they see beyond it. They see the potential for redemption. Mercy allows the heart to remain soft in a hard world, to stay human in an age that too often forgets what humanity means. Forgiveness is the final expression of divine love and mercy in human form. It is the moment when love conquers pain and mercy silences the ego. Both Islam and Christianity teach that forgiveness is the path to divine closeness, the ultimate act of humility that reflects God's forgiveness of his creation. Forgiveness does not erase the past, but it rewrites its meaning, turning suffering into wisdom, betrayal into strength, and loss into spiritual growth. It takes great strength to forgive, because forgiveness demands the surrender of pride and the acceptance that peace is greater than revenge. When you forgive, you release yourself from the chains of resentment, allowing your soul to breathe again. Forgiveness is not for the one who wronged you. It is for you, for your own heart's freedom. When a person holds on to anger, they give power to the very pain that broke them. But when they forgive, they reclaim that power. The prophet taught that the strong one is not the one who defeats others in battle, but the one who controls himself in anger. The Bible teaches to forgive 70 times 7, symbolizing forgiveness without limit, because divine love does not count the times it forgives. It simply continues to forgive. In both faiths, forgiveness is the bridge between humanity and heaven, a reminder that just as we seek forgiveness from God, we must also extend it to one another. It is through this exchange of mercy that communities heal, hearts soften, and love thrives once again. Ultimately, love, mercy, and forgiveness are not three separate virtues, but one continuous cycle that sustains the soul and uplifts the world. Love inspires mercy, mercy leads to forgiveness, and forgiveness deepens love. Together, they create a balance that mirrors the divine order of the universe. In a world torn by conflict, judgment, and division, the message of these virtues is not just spiritual, it is revolutionary. When a person chooses love over hate, mercy over punishment, and forgiveness over vengeance, they do not just change themselves, they change the energy of the world around them. Both Islam and Christianity were revealed to awaken this moral consciousness, to remind humanity that peace cannot exist without compassion, and compassion cannot exist without faith. The one who loves purely, forgives sincerely, and shows mercy consistently becomes a reflection of divine beauty in a broken world. These virtues are the highest form of education the soul can receive. teaching not through words but through actions. The more one practices them, the closer they come to understanding the true essence of God's message to mankind. Love is the beginning, mercy is the journey, and forgiveness is the destination. And when these three reside in a person's heart, that heart becomes a sanctuary where heaven touches earth. Love, mercy, and forgiveness are the three divine qualities that transcend every boundary of faith, culture, and time, and they serve as the essence of humanity's spiritual purpose. When both Islam and Christianity are studied deeply, it becomes evident that they are united by these timeless virtues that call upon humanity to reflect the divine attributes within their daily lives. Love, in its truest form, is not merely an emotion. It is an act of devotion and acknowledgement of the divine within oneself and others. It is the bridge between creation and the Creator, the unseen power that binds hearts and heals wounds. In Islam, the foundation of faith begins with recognizing the mercy and love of Allah, for He describes Himself as the most compassionate and the most merciful. Likewise, in Christianity, the essence of faith revolves around the love of God, who loves His creation unconditionally and teaches His followers to love even their enemies. This shared spiritual truth reveals that love is not a feeling of convenience but a commitment of the soul, a choice to rise above hatred, pride, and resentment. It is through love that we understand mercy, and through mercy we are led to forgiveness. Love demands sacrifice, patience, and understanding, for it requires the heart to give even when it has been broken, and to care even when it has been disappointed. To love purely is to see others not through the lens of their faults, but through the light of their potential. Both religions remind us that love is the foundation of faith, because faith without love is hollow, a body without a soul. Love teaches us empathy. It reminds us that no matter how different our languages, traditions, or appearances, our souls are made of the same divine breath. And it is this divine breath that calls upon us to act with compassion, to offer kindness without expecting reward, and to love because we were first loved by God. Mercy and forgiveness are the living extensions of love, the practical ways in which love manifests in the human heart. Mercy is what allows love to survive in a world full of imperfection. It softens what has hardened, heals what has been broken, and gives hope to what seems lost. To be merciful is to reflect the compassion of the Creator, to respond to pain not with punishment, but with patience. Both Islam and Christianity elevate mercy as one of the highest virtues. In Islam, the very breath of divine revelation begins with, "In the name of Allah," the most compassionate, the most merciful, reminding humanity that mercy is not an option. It is the way of divine governance. Similarly, in Christianity, God's mercy is seen as His gift of salvation, His willingness to forgive human weakness again and again. Mercy is the light that dispels the darkness of judgment, teaching us that true justice is not about vengeance but restoration. Forgiveness, the natural result of mercy, completes this divine cycle. It releases the heart from the prison of resentment and allows the soul to rise toward peace. Forgiveness does not deny the hurt or erase the memory of pain. It transforms that pain into strength. It teaches us that no one is beyond redemption, that as long as a person breathes, the door to mercy remains open. When one forgives, they are not doing a favor for the one who wronged them. They are healing their own spirit, reclaiming their peace, and freeing themselves from the weight of anger. Both faiths emphasize that God's forgiveness is endless and that humans must mirror that forgiveness in their dealings with one another. The prophet taught that the strong person is not the one who can overpower others, but the one who can control themselves in anger. Similarly, Jesus taught to forgive 70 times 7, symbolizing that forgiveness should never be exhausted. Together, these teachings show that mercy and forgiveness are not weaknesses but divine strengths, powers that renew hearts and restore communities. The world today needs these virtues more than ever. In an age where ego and division dominate, love, mercy, and forgiveness are the antidotes that can heal humanity. When individuals choose to embody these virtues, they become reflections of divine light in a world desperate for compassion. They remind us that spirituality is not measured by how much knowledge we acquire, but by how much love we give, how much mercy we show, and how readily we forgive. And in that realization lies the ultimate truth that the path to divine closeness is not through perfection, but through sincere love, boundless mercy, and unconditional forgiveness. Love, mercy, and forgiveness together form the divine language of the soul. the universal truths that connect humanity beyond differences of faith, color, or creed. These qualities are not just moral ideals to admire from afar, but spiritual practices that both Islam and Christianity demand from the heart of every believer. They are the essence of divine revelation, the reflection of God's presence within human nature, and the path that transforms an ordinary life into one of spiritual beauty. Love is the seed from which mercy and forgiveness grow. It is the foundation upon which all relationships, faith, and peace are built. Without love, the heart becomes dry, the mind becomes harsh, and life loses its meaning. In Islam, love is reflected in every act of compassion, in every prayer offered for others, and in every moment when a believer chooses peace over pride. In Christianity, love is described as the greatest of all commandments, one that surpasses ritual and law because it embodies the spirit of both. To love means to see creation as sacred, to look beyond imperfection and recognize divine artistry in every being. When love fills the heart, hatred has no home. When love leads the soul, arrogance has no power. Love is not about possession or control. It is about giving freely, without demand, because one understands that all love comes from God and returns to Him. It teaches that the truest strength is not in dominance, but in tenderness, not in winning, but in forgiving, not in being loved, but in loving sincerely. Mercy is love in action. It is love when it meets pain and chooses to heal instead of hurt. It is the divine balance between justice and compassion, a reminder that even when we are wronged, we can respond with grace. The Qur'an begins every chapter with mercy, reminding humanity that every act of faith begins with compassion. The Bible, too, reveals mercy as the heart of God's relationship with humankind, a mercy that renews each morning, limitless and unconditional. This parallel teaches that mercy is not weakness, it is power under control. To be merciful is to recognize the humanity of others, to understand that every person carries their own struggles, and that our role is not to condemn but to support, not to shame but to uplift. Mercy requires humility because it demands that we step beyond our ego and see the world through the eyes of understanding. It reminds us that everyone at some point has needed mercy, from parents, from friends, from God, and that the best way to honor the mercy we have received is to extend it to others. When mercy lives in a heart, anger loses its grip and resentment melts away. It creates a softness that allows forgiveness to grow. A merciful heart is a heart that knows peace because it no longer wastes its strength on vengeance, but invests it in healing. Through mercy, the believer mirrors the compassion of the Creator, transforming cold judgment into warm empathy. Forgiveness completes this divine cycle. It is the highest expression of love and mercy combined, the point where spiritual maturity reaches its peak. Forgiveness is not forgetting, nor is it denying the pain one has endured. It is the conscious choice to release that pain so it no longer controls the heart. Both Islam and Christianity teach that forgiveness is an act of liberation, not only for the forgiven, but for the forgiver. It cleanses the soul of bitterness and opens space for peace to enter. The one who forgives is not naive. They are wise enough to know that holding onto anger is a poison that harms only the one who keeps it. The Prophet taught that the strong person is not the one who overcomes others, but the one who controls himself in anger. Similarly, the words of Jesus call for forgiveness without end, reminding humanity that there is no limit to divine compassion. These teachings remind us that forgiveness is not merely a moral gesture, but a spiritual necessity. It is what keeps the heart alive and connected to God. Every time a person forgives, they reaffirm faith in divine justice rather than human revenge. They remind themselves that the world is too temporary and the soul too precious to be consumed by hatred. Forgiveness allows light to enter places that pain had darkened. It is through forgiveness that broken relationships can be rebuilt, communities can be healed, and hearts can be reborn. Ultimately, love, mercy, and forgiveness are not three separate virtues, but three faces of the same divine truth. They represent the essence of all prophetic teachings and the foundation upon which lasting peace can be built. When love resides in the heart, mercy becomes natural. When mercy becomes natural, forgiveness flows effortlessly. These qualities are not learned from books alone. They are lived through experience, through hardship, and through the constant struggle to rise above ego. In a world drowning in conflict and judgment, love is the lifeboat that rescues the soul from despair. Mercy is the current that keeps it steady, and forgiveness is the wind that carries it forward. Together, they create a life that reflects divine beauty, a life that radiates peace, patience, and compassion. Both Islam and Christianity remind us that faith without these virtues is hollow. True spirituality is not about how much you know or how often you speak of God. It is about how deeply you love, how sincerely you forgive, and how widely you show mercy. The one who embodies these virtues walks with light, for they have understood the true purpose of being human, to reflect the attributes of the one who created them. In the end, when we stand before God, he will not ask how much we have achieved, but how much we have loved, how much mercy we have shown, and how many hearts we have forgiven. That is where the meaning of both faiths meets, in the realization that love, mercy, and forgiveness are not only divine gifts, but the keys to eternal peace.